Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options to Play video update. First off, I'd like to thank all of you guys that tuned in and participated in last night's options session. So always really value the time we can spend just talking state of the market, talking options, talking trades, what we have been trading, what we're looking at to trade. So I really always enjoy like those um, the sessions every couple weeks, and I really appreciate you guys stopping by, participating, hanging out, and just as always, I love when you guys reach out in the interim, right? Any questions or comments or just feedback on how you want or what you'd like to hear about going forward. So please definitely do keep reaching out. So what I want to talk about in today's video is something that went over a little bit last night, and it really has a lot to do with spotting differences in similar names into earnings. And it's the differences a lot of times that create the opportunities. And what I meant by that, so this is going to be referencing YY, but what I was talking about last night was Nutanix, right? So Nutanix, a little bit different setup than a lot of other software stocks, right? So this name had a pretty nice bounce off the low, but it was also pretty far removed from its 52-week high, and whereas there were plenty of recent IPOs, hot software stocks that were just kind of running into their earnings report. This one, yes, it had bounced, but it was still way off its high, and it had kind of started to lose some momentum. So, a lot of times, like those are the ones I like to look for. So, had the number been good, I felt that there was plenty of room higher, right, to play catch up with the sector, or the fact that it was lagging pretty materially was definitely notable too. So it could mean that there was something brewing under the surface that people were nervous about, right? So it's spotting the differences in the setups that again, like I feel like is where the opportunity lies, right? So it's the names that maybe haven't participated, right? So that gives the opportunity for either catch up or underperformance, right? So maybe they're not participating for a fundamental reason, and that's when you get maybe like the surprise move lower, which is what you saw in Nutanix. So back to YY. So the story of the video. So YY, right? In this long kind of like monthly consolidation, trying to form a little bit of a rounded bottom, right? And Baba definitely the biggest. Baba definitely the biggest China name. That's kind of in a completely different setup. But what you'll notice is that there's a lot of other, maybe smaller cap. I mean, there's still significant companies, but smaller cap names, not Baba, that had kind of a similar setup, right? So you saw JD. So if I go back to this before, you can see that it was kind of like a same thing, right? Like a few month consolidation, a rounding bottom, trying to break out. What happened? Like it finally went, and it dinged its 200A, right? Ran right up to like this 200A. Weibo. Right? So what happened with Weibo? So kind of the same thing, right? Couple month consolidation, trying to do a rounded bottom. What happened? What happened when it finally broke out, right? Good volume push straight up into the 200A, right? So you can see that it's actually pulling back today, which is different story. But when it finally broke this rounded bottom consolidation, what was the first level of interest? It was the 200A, right? So with YY on tap, so this was like the setup going in, right? Very similar. I could probably pull up like 2 or 3 more charts that are kind of in like the same category. So it's a name that a little bit of a consolidation, a rounded bottom, trying to turn the corner. And in this case, you knew that earnings were coming up, right? So it was a substantial catalyst. So it was a name that had been kind of lagging a little bit, right? Like whereas some of the other names already turned the corner, YY hadn't turned the corner yet. Had a well-defined area of resistance. It's had a history of pretty good moves, right? Last quarter was a little bit less so, but back in August, pretty big move. Back in June, a pretty big move as well. So, a stock that has a history of pretty large moves is lagging a bit. Awfully similar setup to a lot of other peers, which have turned the corner. So, this is one where maybe it would have warranted playing it both ways, right? In this case, like I felt like the bullish setup was just more interesting, just as a way to play catch up with the other stocks that had broke out and then ran to the 200-day. So what I was looking at was basically that trade. It was looking for a breakout, so through like the 75 resistance level, and then a push up into the 200-day. Which was right around 80. No, not exactly at 80, but in that vicinity. Also lines up with this August like pivot bounce area. So what happened, right? You get the solid number, and then the stock broke out. It has obviously ran past the 200-day, but like the nature of the trade has played out similar to many of the other ones. I mean, you get this rounded you get this consolidation, rounded bottom, and then like the breakout and the push to the 200-day, right? So it was lagging a little bit. It caught my radar because of that fact. When I was screening for setups and I saw a lot of like of these Chinese names working. JD was one from last week, right? That was one that we were riding higher. So when I was watching JD and watching some of these other names moving and then screening for trades this week, why it stood out to me is one that was lagging. And again, things that are lagging, things that are showing like differences from other like peers in the sector, like closely correlated names. That to me creates or it says opportunity. And in this case, YY worked just the way we want it, right? So you got the strong move, breakout 75, and the push up into 200-day to close it out for a pretty quick trade. So I wanted to spend this video today just kind of talking about briefly what we went over a little bit, and really of the many things I look for setups into earnings. Like this is definitely one of them. It's like recognizing like the differences and whether those differences are create opportunities for trades, and a lot of times they do. So definitely something to keep on your radar as you look for trades going forward and as you screen for these types of setups. Ideally they would all work that fast. They don't. Obviously, some don't work at all, but this is definitely something that I tend to focus on. So definitely wanted to highlight that today. All right. So let me know what you guys think. If you're in YY, or let me know if you guys see a setup like this going forward. Maybe something that hasn't caught my radar. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. All right. So I hope you guys have a fantastic night, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.